I'm Mark Hunter, and this is the AppArmor and HTTPS presentation for ISA 4220. AppArmor is a Linux security module that utilizes a policy profile to protect a system's applications and services. Its two main rules are path entries and capability entries. Path entries dictate which files an application can access in the system, while the capability entries control the privileges a process is permitted to use. And the command to install AppArmor is sudo apt install AppArmor-profiles. After installing AppArmor, AppArmor has two modes that you can use to implement your policies. Enforce mode is used to implement the policy or rules for an application or service in real time. So any rule or policy that isn't allowed is disallowed, and that might break the functionality if the policy profile isn't broad enough. In terms of the complain mode, that is more of a learning environment where the policies made for the applications or services won't be enforced, but it would run normally as if it were on a live server. But instead, any problems or errors that might occur if the policy were to encounter it would act like as it would in enforce mode, and it would be logged and reported. And this gives the user the opportunity to review the logs, debug the profiles before putting them onto the live servers, which would be onto the enforce mode. Some common commands to use to harden AppArmor is AA status, and that shows the list of policies that are in effect and what mode they're being used in, so that the user knows which ones to transfer over to another mode to switch back in order to fix it or debug it. There's AA unconfined, which shows the applications and services that are operating with open ports that aren't protected with AppArmor, and if this isn't monitored or checked, then the system has the vulnerability to be attacked by third parties. There's AA complain, which makes the policy into complain mode for fixes, practices, and all the learning environment. There's AA enforce, which puts the policy into enforce mode, which is for the live servers to put them into effect. And there's AA log prof, which is basically a log analyzer that displays the access errors and helps add new rules to the profile as a suggestion if the user would like it. HTTPS, also known as Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, it's a more secure version of HTTP, which is a security protocol used to transfer information between web browsers and a website. HTTPS is encrypted in order to increase the security of data transfers, and this is particularly important when users transmit information, sensitive data such as bank account information, emails, or health insurance information that would be used against an individual or to sell over the internet. HTTPS also prevents websites from having their information broadcast to the public, which would be an easy way for third parties to view the information, as in snooping on the network, which they can use to pick out which data they want to try to attack and how to do it so. And within the HTTPS, there are two keys that are used to secure the data. There's a private key and the public key. And the private key is controlled by the owner of the website and is kept private from the public. This key lives on the web server and is used to decrypt the information encrypted by the public key. And the public key is the key that's available to everybody who wants to interact with the server or the website in a way that's secure. And the information encrypted by the public key can only be decrypted by the private key, which is held by the owner of the website. Through the Windows server that we're going to be using during the labs, the best way to harden the HTTPS is through Microsoft IIS, which stands for Internet Information Services. And this is a web server that's used for hosting websites and other content that can be found on the internet. And two of the main security protocols that are used within the HTTPS and IIS is transport layer security and secure socket layer. Transport layer security, also known as TLS, is a security protocol that's made to regulate and control the privacy and information security within the communications within the internet, so between servers and websites. This is used by encrypting the communication between the servers and the applications and other forms of communication such as emails or messaging. This includes when web browsers are loading for a website. Some good ways to harden the HTTPS within IIS is through the HTTPS Strict Transport Security, also known as HSTS, which is a security feature that confines browsers to only access servers through HTTPS, which results in a failed connection if the HTTP connection is insecure. So this is a good way to stop third parties that are potentially threatening to the server. Other forms of hardening is to keep the system updated with the most recent version so that any bug fixes could be resolved. To regulate who has access to the network, because any unauthorized personnel could be a threat to the information within the server. To refrain from putting too much information in a response header after an attack, which can give the attacker a heads up as to what is being protected, how it's being protected, and what kind of protocols the server is using. And the last one is to configure HTTP request filtering options, which prevents potentially harmful HTTP requests from entering the server through a rule-based filtering protocol. And these are my work cited.